Well, and I think in a lot of ways, social media has taken that away from us too. I know, I go through these purges where I'll go through and just get rid of all these different pages that I'm following where it looks like everybody's catching a 28-inch brown, every trip they go out. And, it puts this pressure on you to do those sorts of things. And, it's not realistic.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remote No Pressure Podcast. We're so excited. Good to see you, Bill.
Yeah, good to see you, too.
It's crazy holiday season.
It is.
Getting back in the swing of things.
2019.
Oh, my gosh. Have you fully recovered?
I don't feel I have, I mean, I wasn't out partying anybody or anything. I was staying at home. I'm a pretty tame person these days. But December was a crazy month, with work and, holidays and family. And all that goes with all that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my folks came up from Texas for 9 days. We had a great time, but it was a lot of work. You know, when you have people in your house for that long, it's like, okay, a lot of cooking, a lot of cleaning, but it was good. We had a great time.
That's awesome.
It was good. It's good to spend time with family and friends, but it's like this whole week, like Jamie and I, we don't do a lot of vegging at night. We're just not those kind of people. That's why.
Until this week.
Yeah, this week was just sit down and watch TV every night.
It's therapeutic.
And so at 6:30 Monday, my parents went home on Sunday. So at 6:30 on Monday, my kids were just done. And I knew if I put them to bed at 6:30, they'd be up at 4 a.m. So I'm I can't let them go to sleep. So I was like, okay.
Teach them how to make coffee.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So I'm like, if I could just keep them in some sort of middle, not quite asleep, not quite awake, zombie state for 2 hours. I'll make it so I put them in front of the TV and watched a movie, the Dog Hotel for Dogs.
Hotel for Dogs. That one, I don't think I ever watched that one.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
or did I? And I don't want to admit it.
Right after that one Disney movie. Yeah. No, it was Hotel for Dogs. It was a cool movie.
Princess Diaries.
Yeah, right after Princess Diaries. It was Princess Diaries and then that one. Yeah, there's
that's a Friday night for me.
Oh
there
my
we go.
Gosh. My embarrassing movie, Netflix has a movie called Dumpling.
Never heard of it.
With Jennifer Aniston, who's this Texas beauty pageant person, and her daughter is overweight and is not a beauty pageant person at all. God, why am I admitting this?
Wow.
To thousands of people? I'm gonna just say,
sorry to break it to you. You're not beauty pageant material.
I know. I was like, what is this? But I didn't see the whole movie because it was so dumb. I was like, this is a dumb movie.
I think I've seen bits of that, on Stars or HBO.
It's only on Netflix.
Oh, then maybe I haven't.
No. That's another dumpling on the Stars and HBO. No, it was weird. It was weird to see Jennifer Aniston looking older.
I know. She's not Rachel anymore.
She's not. And then Joey, what's his real name?
Oh, man.
What's his real name?
I don't even know. He'll always be Joey.
Yeah, he's Joey.
But now he's gray.
He's all gray. And
well, we're all going to be there. When on Friends, they were younger than we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 20s and 30s.
Well, that was a big episode when they turned 30. When they all turned 30.
I mean, in real life. Who was the main Monica? She was mid-30s back then.
Yeah.
She was the oldest one in the cast. But
so we're basically older than they were now.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. We're older now than they were when they quit.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Did you watch Friends? Were you a Friends watcher?
In the 90s, I did. Yeah, I didn't watch, the last few years. I was in college, and I was learning how to party.
Did you watch Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah. Everybody watched Seinfeld in the 80s and 90s, man. And Cheers? You watched Cheers?
Nah, I wasn't a Cheers guy.
Really?
Well, I grew up in a very religious home.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And basically, if I smelled alcohol, that's basically what the Flames of Hell smelled like as well. So it was a show in a bar did not fly in my home.
Gotcha.
And neither did Seinfeld. But we had two TVs in the home.
You had to sneak it.
So on Thursday nights at 8:00 Central Time, I would sneak into the back room, and I watched every episode of Seinfeld. And I remember the episode where they had the bet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the bet. Who can forget the bet?
Oh my gosh, and I was like probably a sophomore, freshman in high school, something like that. And I remember looking at the door like my parents could walk in anytime, and they wouldn't have known,
No.
But oh my gosh, that show was funny. I wasn't a Friends guy. I didn't watch Friends. I watched Seinfeld. And a lot of people watched either or, but you watched both.
Yeah.
Did your parents like?
Yeah, my parents just watched them too. I mean, we only had one TV in the house.
Really?
Yep.
Was it black and white?
No, it was color all the time.
Up in northern Michigan, you got like some foil on the top.
Yeah, we had one of those
in.
huge antennas out in the backyard with a rotary dial on it
to
turn it, because we couldn't get the Traverse City stations from where I was because of the hills. But I could get the Cadillac stations.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a cable. But back then, cable was only like 30 channels, 20 channels.
We couldn't afford cable. We were poor. We in like mid '90s we got Prime Star. Do you remember what that was?
No.
That was like one of the first big satellite or miniature satellite dish companies, but it was like what Dish turned into.
Okay.
Or DirecTV. I can't remember. It was Prime Star. Then I want to say DirecTV came around and Dish came around, and Prime Star dissolved into one of those two.
Wow, that's something.
Mm-hmm.
And they all kind of got bought up probably.
By AT&T.
Yeah, everything's AT&T.
Yeah.
Everything.
My tattoo's AT&T.
Yeah, I noticed that on your lower back.
Yep.
That globe AT&T thing. That's cute.
I couldn't finish the word attention, so I just had to put that on. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, you're good. Well, this week, a couple things. We've had JP Murphy. He helped us last year on the podcast last season, and then he's also been on the podcast this season.
Yeah.
Well, he works at a fly shop down in Florida, and they got robbed. So I guess the fly shop was moving, and they put their stuff in storage, and they came and got robbed. And I think insurance only covers like $5,000, but it was like a bunch of Scott rods and just tons of stuff. So they've got like I don't know if it's a GoFundMe or something like that to help them rebuild their fly shop. So we're going to put that in this week's mailing thing. And also if you go to our blog, we'll put it up on our blog, and we'll put some shout outs to them so people can find that.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
Have you ever had anything stolen from you?
Oh yeah. I had my truck broken into like when I lived with my sister.
Oh, that's right.
Remember when we were doing your first project?
Yeah, my first project. Yeah, and you lived it kind of in the hood.
Yeah, I did. Yep. And I parked in a back alley, and somebody bashed my window in on my truck, on my Ranger, my old Ranger.
The Ranger. I was gonna ask you, was the Ranger?
Yep. And stole I just got this gift pack of cigarettes from Sweden. A buddy of mine went to Sweden.
Okay.
And so I had those like a half pack still. I was a smoker for a lot of time, so that was like a half night of just hanging out. Like, I'm gonna save these for the morning.
Right.
Nope. And then a bottle of Hugo. Do you remember what Hugo was?
Yeah.
$50 a bottle of cologne.
Yeah. Remember CK1? Is it for a girl or a boy? We don't know. Yeah, we had got my radio stolen. My old house. My wife and I first got married. Our first house was not in a great. It wasn't a horrible neighborhood, but it wasn't like a great neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And it got broken into a couple times, and you just feel violated.
I know. Like if they're gonna get into the car, what's next?
Yeah. So, big shout out to them, and I hope everything goes well with them. And check that out. Also, we had Rick Pope, who's the owner of TFO, on our show last season. He came on pretty early in the show, so that was really cool for him to come on. And one of his reps, Ray Schmidt, is here in Michigan, and he's been with TFO for like years. I'm not sure exactly how long he's been with them, but he's doing this series right now, just trying to preserve Michigan flies, and it's pretty cool. Have you seen any of the videos at all?
No, you were just showing me a couple of them, but I've not watched those yet.
Yeah, I'll send you a link, and we'll put some links out. But what they're doing at TFO with TFO and with Ray Schmidt is he's trying to preserve, because there's a lot of flies that these older guys that have made these flies are dying off.
Yeah.
And so he's like saying these are Michigan flies. These are the people behind the flies. And it's just a really cool series that I'm excited about, just to learn some history of flies in Michigan. So big shout out to TFO and what they're doing. It's really cool. And Brian Kosminski's sharing on his True North Trout feed with Facebook. So really cool.
Awesome.
So check it out.
Yeah.
And then this week we have Mr. Michael Williams, who owns Green Bus Designs, which has nothing to do with fly fishing, the Green Bus Designs name when you hear it, but he tells us all about how it has everything to do with fly fishing. And it's a pretty cool story about how he came up with the name Green Bus Designs. And he designs all kinds of he's an artist, and he draws like pictures on hats and things like that. And he even got some cool stuff with Sims he's doing.
That's awesome.
So, and he's a Michigan guy. So this is the Michigan episode.
Excellent.
We've got Ray Schmidt, who is a local doing the awesome video series. We've got Mike Williams with Green Bus Designs here in Michigan, lives up by the Osable. And then we have JP Murphy. He's from Michigan, but unfortunately he's in Florida and they got robbed. So those are the three things we wanted to highlight this week episode. So welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm very excited to have a Michigan artist, Mr. Mike Williams. Thank you very much for joining us, Mike.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's really cool talking to other people who are located in Michigan, and you're up near the Osable. Am I right?
That's correct. I actually live in Oscoda, which is right at the mouth of the Osable. So, the Holy Waters, which is really our famous stretch of the river, is about an hour and a half from here upstream. So we make that run quite frequently, actually. I think we try to make the run at least up to Mile, which is an hour from here, at least once a week. It depends on what's going on, but at least once a week we're heading up that way. But yes, we also fish the Osable on the lower. There's a dam that's about 7 miles upstream from the mouth, and so we get everything. That's where we do our steelhead fishing and warm water species like smallmouth and pike. And
you're like a streamer junkie, am I right?
I am actually, yes. It's kind of a new thing. I say new. I've been fishing for a long time. 33 years now that I can remember. Chasing fish that matter. I should say trout and salmon. But fly fishing isn't super new to me, but I think streamer fishing has been about 4 years now that I've been really doing it. And, I think the first trip out, my buddies just got fish right around that 20-inch mark. And, I didn't. I caught a couple nice smallies, and I was so bummed and disappointed. And I just remember these fish coming out of nowhere chasing these streamers and just, the excitement. And, it took me quite a while to actually stick my first fish with a streamer. And so there was that addiction was born. And now that's just where my love is. That's all I want to do all the time.
Now, you said dry flies. According to your bio, dry flies are a close second, though, correct?
They are, yeah. It's just that change of pace, and I'm sure that we all go through it to some extent. But it used to be, for steelhead, for example, it was a numbers game for us. How many fish we could catch in a day, and then by the time they were ready to spawn, we were done with them and it's time to chase something different. And so it's just like streamer fishing. Streamer fishing is wonderful and great. But sometimes it just makes you want to pull your hair out and the winters get long. And, so, when the first bugs start popping, it's just that excitement to change tactics. And so, yeah, it's something different. It's something fresh. And it just gives us a different opportunity throughout the year,
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because the winter is very long where I'm at, but you're even further north than me. So your winters are even probably 3 or 4 more weeks of winter than I have even.
Yeah, you guys get pounded pretty heavily, though. You get a lot more of the Lake Michigan snow effect over there. So,
right.
Everybody says that about us, but we're actually the Wordsmith Air Force Base was constructed here. It's no longer in use for the Air Force, but from what I've understood since I've been here in Oscoda the last 13 years is, they built it here just because of the lack of snowfall that we get. The only way we really get pounded too heavily with snow and cold is, if we get like a northeast blow off the lake, things will change. But yeah, I think you guys get it a lot worse than we do, to be honest.
Yeah, we get we definitely get pounded by snow. I'm in between Grand Rapids and Holland area. In between that and yeah, I mean even like 6 miles west of me, they may get another 10 to 15 inches of snow per year than we do even. Get closer and closer to the
Right.
lake, but I mean it's not unusual to have over 100 inches of snow per winter. That's not unusual at
Right.
all.
Yeah, and then just south of you guys, I mean, there's a lot of ice that comes through that 94 corridor too, and I'm sure you pick up some of that as well. So, yeah, we just kind of stay clear, and we laugh at you guys as you just keep pounding on the snow, and just hope. I mean, it's bad enough it is. I'm a teacher, so we get all these snow days anyhow, and so snow days are fun for a while, and then you start thinking about, okay, all these days that you're gonna have to make up. So. We just watch your school years, continue to extend as ours is, it's not quite as bad, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, as far as what you do, I mean, what's your day job? You said you're a teacher. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, like, for your day job?
Sure. I started teaching, I think it's 17 years ago, actually. I graduated from Michigan State and, excuse me, I went into art education. Basically, I was inspired by my art teacher. I graduated from Bertrand High School, and my art teacher was just really great and always was supportive of my endeavors. And so I went into art education, and so I started there. I was in Marshall, Michigan, for about 2.5 years and got laid off, and sort of just chased a job to Detroit. And I didn't really want to be in Detroit. It actually didn't do much for me in terms of getting outdoors and fishing. I remember trying to chase steelhead somewhere, in the Detroit area, and I can't remember exactly where it was at, but I was like, this is just silly. This is not where I need to be. And so the year before I moved to Oscoda, I actually interviewed for a job here in Oscoda, and it went to one of the local girls who actually I work with now. And so the next year, another position opened up, and I was actually in Fairbanks, Alaska, the first time on a payphone. Actually, most people probably don't even know what those are anymore. And I'm interviewing at like 5:00 in the morning in Fairbanks, trying to get this job. But it was one of those things I had to get out of. So, long story. Again, 17 years as a teacher, teaching art, and I started doing K-12, and then it's shifted a little bit. Now I'm doing 6 through 12. And I also teach social studies now too. I'm econ, government, and U.S. history usually. So they kind of use me for whatever they need, I guess.
That's really cool that you're able to do that. And sounds like, to be honest with you, a lot of the guides that we've had, I've said this a number of times, a lot of the good fishing guides, the guys that have been around for a long time, and even the ones that are newer that really have a passion for it, are first and foremost teachers. A lot of them came out of the educational field, or do the day teaching, teach by day, guide by weekend kind of thing. And I've seen that consistently. I don't know what it's about teachers and fly fishing, but it seems like a lot of them do it.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure that out too, because, you've had Matt on the show, Matt Peisert, and I got to fish with him recently. And, I was surprised to find out that he was actually going to be a teacher at one point in time. I look at Scott Hollinger and Matt Stockton. They're both art education teachers. But they're also in this art field as well. And it's just so there is something about it. I don't know if it's our freedom with time. We do have a little bit different schedule, so it allows us to maybe pursue the fishing a little more. In the best times of the year. So I don't know, but there's something about it for sure. But none of us have been able to put our finger on it as far as I'm concerned at this point, I guess.
Yeah. It's pretty cool to see that. And I know the real successful fishing guides too, they just I've been out with a few, and the best ones I've been out with are the ones that are really patient and have more like a teaching heart. But I like to learn too. I don't go out there like, I know everything. I pay them to teach me stuff because I want to know,
right?
Not just take me fishing, but where are the fish? How to read the water? There's a lot to it. Let's talk a little about Green Bus Designs. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what that is, and how that got started, Michael?
Sure. So Green Bus Designs was purely an accident. I had a student, and I won't mention his name, but I can picture his face right now. And a really good kid wanted me to help him draw a Rapala. And I said, yeah, sure, that's not a problem. The cool thing about up here, and I won't ramble too much, but a lot of our kids are into the outdoors. I remember I coached softball up here for a long time, and we'd have these big dinners on Thursday nights or whatever. And one night, my buddy brought a bunch of bear over, and the kids were like passing up the pasta to go eat the bear, and so these kids come into my classroom, and knowing that I like the outdoors, there's a different connection with these kids than I've had with some of the other kids I've taught in the past. We have a lot of the same interests, I guess. So this particular individual wanted me to help him draw a Rapala, and so I sat down and we did it, and I was like, man, that was kind of fun. So I did one for myself, and then I started drawing like some other like favorite lures at the time. And I don't know, I wasn't thinking flies. I was just, I guess, just thinking easy. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do a panther martin. So I did a panther martin. And then I was like, well, I'll do my two favorite colors of panther martins. And so I just kind of went down the list of all these different things that I enjoyed. And so I was showing my wife, and she's like, oh, these are really cool. But then I started, looking at flies, and I'm like, well, let's start with my favorite flies. And my wife's like, you really need to try to sell these, make some stickers. And I'm like, no, I've never been an artist who wanted people to see my work. And so my wife is pushing me to do it. And then a friend of ours, her name's Karen Hayes, a former educator colleague, friend of mine. She also started pushing. I'm like, fine, let's just do it and see what happens. Did a little bit of social media stuff. And I'm like, well, I guess I need this name. I need a name of something. And so I came up with Green Bus Designs based on our 1962 GMC green school bus that we had on the mouth of the Big 200 River in northern Michigan, in the UP of Michigan. And that was our steelhead camp. That's where my grandpa and I would go. He took me there when I was 12 for the first time. And his brother Wayne, so my grandpa Jack and his brother Wayne, it was actually Wayne's bus, but anyhow, we would go there, and it was the three of us, and we were just like the best buds. And I was just a young kid in camp, and it was all about catching steelhead and just being there with buddies, So it's the camaraderie. So I wanted to. It was a nod to that, and I wanted to honor those memories and those individuals that meant so much to me in this whole adventure, I guess.
That's really cool, because I was wondering where that came from, and then I read in your bio that was, fish camp, and that was just really cool to kind of understand the story behind the name. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say the one downfall though is it doesn't really relate to fishing, I guess, if there to anybody else, So I guess if I could go back and do it differently, I'd probably do it just a little bit differently so that people are like, oh, okay, that correlates to fishing or fly fishing or whatever it is. But
right.
It means a lot to me. And I don't know if you follow me on my Instagram, but it's I changed it from Green Bus Designs Mike Williams to Mike Williams Art. Just trying to maybe go off my name a little more than just the Green Bus thing, and have people know me that way.
Okay, yeah, and we'll put up some links to all that stuff in the show notes and also on our blog so people can check you out. And you do some pretty cool stuff. I mean, okay, so you recently did some stuff with Sims, am I correct?
Yes, we've got some things coming out. My big release will be in the spring of 2020, and I believe too that there's some things coming out in the spring of 2019. And so I'm really, really excited about that. I've got so many people that I need to thank, and I can't wait for that opportunity, because there's a great deal of effort that went into hooking me up with the right people, and I got really lucky. I'm so happy and thankful and grateful for the experiences that I've had. And so, we'll see where it goes. I'm super happy to be working with Sims, and, we'll see what happens, but hopefully everything is received very well. And I know the guys at Sims so far are very happy with everything that we've put together and that we've come up with together. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool that you're able to get that opportunity. So many people are phenomenal artists, and musicians or this and that, but getting that opportunity and just excelling in your career and making somewhat of a living off of it is just, that doesn't happen on accident. And yeah, you could say you got lucky, but you're also an amazing artist and your artwork's really
thank
cool.
you.
So yeah. So
Thank
it doesn't
you. I appreciate it.
So, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean though about, you had mentioned people up north being a little more outdoorsy type and the kids wanting to eat the bear. So I took my son up to Lake Superior State University. When was it? This was in the summer, like he goes to school year round. So it was like summertime, like late spring, early summer.
Okay.
And he had this trip where we go to Mackinac Island, then we go to Lake Superior State University. And big shout out to Lake Superior State. They were awesome hosts.
Right.
But they, at night they were like, oh, let's meet up in the game room. And I was like, okay, cool. So we were in this dorm, and I think it was like in one of the older dorms that they keep like students, like kids in, that come through or whatever. I don't think they keep their actual students there, but
gotcha.
And I'm like, game room. Okay. So we go into this building and like, oh, there's the game clean room. And I'm like, what the heck's the game clean room? So I went down there and it was actually a room to clean your wild game.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
How great is that? That's
like,
fantastic.
Amazing, I was like, that's like, and now I don't know if they have a game clean room in the new dorms, but that was like, holy cow, because, you're up north. I mean, you're up in the UP, and I think they're up in the UP. And so it's like, what else is there to do but hunt and fish during the wintertime, during the school season? So they literally had a room to clean your game. And I was like, this is the coolest place ever.
I'll be sure to pass that along to my students. We talk about college a lot. I have a lot of seniors and things. I'll make sure that they are well aware that there's a place there for them to, to help butcher their animals or whatever it may be. So that's really fantastic. I had no idea. That's really great though. So I'm assuming your son is going to go to Lake Superior State now, though. After you've seen all this, is that correct?
No. I want him. I don't care where he goes.
Gotcha.
But I know Lakes. I'm sure they have a great program. They do a lot of stuff with the Great Lakes, and
they do.
But that's great. But I really want him to go to Rice University, which is down in Houston. But right. I don't know. That's just kind of where I wanted to go. So I'm like vicariously living my life with my kids.
Gotcha.
So,
gotcha. Yeah. Our boys will be going to Michigan State, I'm sure, at the rate they're going right now. So if my wife has anything to do with it, especially. So.
Now you have twin boys then? Because you said you have 2 7-year-old boys.
I do. Yeah, we actually have 3. Well, it's a long story. Yes, we have twin boys that are 7, and we lost our daughter Edie in December 29th of last year. She was only 4.5 months old. So,
wow.
Still trying to figure out. We have 3 children. Yes, but yeah. So we've got 2 that are still here with us and blowing our minds every day. So they're really cool guys.
Now, what was it like? Because you had the twins first, so going from twins and then having your daughter. I mean, that's just one kid at a time is probably a lot different than having 2 at the same time, and that's got to be kind of overwhelming with twins.
Sure, and I guess I don't know how many. I know that I've seen a picture with you and your son, but I'm not sure what. So, how many children do you have?
I have 2 boys. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Okay.
So, I've got the 2 boys kind of thing, but I spread them 4 years apart so I wouldn't go crazy. But you can't help having twins,
right.
But,
No, well, I have to tell you, my wife, number one, is, I get on her sometimes because, she's maybe not doing things that I want her to do, like, go out and have some fun, go out and be with friends or whatever.
Right.
But my wife is just the most fantastic mom, and, she prides herself on being there for the kids and doing all those things. And so I remember, when the boys were first born, like it was a lot for me. So they were in the NICU for 108 days and then 94 days for my second son, Kellen. Kellen was in for 108. Jack was in for 94. So, they were in the hospital for the first 3 months of their life. So we went through that, and that wasn't easy by any means. And so then we get home, and, for me, it was a lot because I wasn't used to babies. So, if anything ever got too hectic, she would just send me out. She was like, just go for a drive. And so I would do those things, or she'd be like, why aren't you hunting tonight? Go hunting or go fishing or whatever you're going to do. But it just never, that was just our reality. So I don't know, if it was the other way around, if we went from 1 to 2, I'm certain it would have been crazy and chaotic. But we just embraced the chaos, and it was just a lot of fun. So we've, the boys have just been best friends since they were babies. We've been, really tight as parents, and from the sounds of it, your family's very, very much the same. You seem like a very well-grounded man and a grounded family. And I think that's kind of what happened here. It's just, you make it work, I guess the other thing too is our closest family member is 2 hours away. So it's just us, it's the 4 of us. And so we find a way, we make it work. And if it's chaotic, we just kind of embrace it and go with it.
That's not all bad that you get, I'm sure with family living that far away, it probably brings you guys a lot closer than you would if you were sending them to grandma and grandpa's every weekend or something, so
right.
Just the 4 of you, it's like, wow, this is us. This is what we have. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think even lately we've been talking more about, there's times we should have had babysitters and things and gone out and done things, my wife and I, or, we get like we want a date or something like that. And it's hard because we don't have anybody to watch the kids. But, the other side of it is we do everything together, and that's really kind of cool, So if we go out to a nice dinner, the boys are there with us, and it's just our normal, it's our norm, and we love it. And when Edie was here, it was even better. The boys had a little sister, and it's everything you go into planning a family and being a father and a husband and all those things. That's what it's all about. And again, from the sounds of it, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And also just reading in your bio about your grandpa and your uncle and the people that have helped you get into fishing and fly fishing. That's I talked to Dave McCoy earlier in the podcast. When we first started out, Dave McCoy, he's out of Portland, I believe, but he was telling me a lot about like how important it is the introduction to the water, right? The introduction to fly fishing and fishing. Like the person who introduces you to the sport has such a huge impact on the way you view the sport,
Sure.
As far as conservation, as far as how you treat the fish, as far as how you fish and all that. And it's cool that you could be part of that with your kids and because you grew up fishing and you're able to pass it on to your kids. Now, do they fly fish, Mike, or not?
They've done a little bit of casting off the dock. We have a cottage on the west side of the state, actually not quite as far as you, over towards Howard City, Edmore area, actually a little more. So Big Rapids, I guess, is kind of close there too. Mm-hmm. And so they've casted a few times off the deck or off the dock, and but no, not so much. And I don't really have a good excuse for that or a good reason for that. Right now, they still don't have a huge interest in fishing. I have one son who likes to fish more than the other, I think. But even when we go out now, it's 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then it's like, all right, let's go do something different. So I haven't put him in the drift boat and taken him down the trout water yet so much. We've done some of the lower Asalo and caught a couple of bass and those sorts of things, and had him, I caught him on fly rods and had him fight him on the fly rod and those sorts of things. But it's weird because I'm really nervous about this part of fatherhood. I know it's a responsibility to get them in the woods and have them hunt, and they enjoy that part. But I also don't want to scare them away. So I'm almost probably more nervous than I am excited, I think, in regards to getting them in the outdoors, because I don't want to ever feel like I'm pushing something onto them. So I don't know. It's really, there's a few things in fatherhood that I look forward to. That was one of them. And now that it's here, it frightens me a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. I totally get it. It's like, wait a minute, it's like telling you I want my kid to go to Rice. Of course, I want him to go to Rice. He's a really smart kid and he excels in everything. But it doesn't mean he's going to want to go to Rice, and it's
right.
But also, like, it also comes down for me. religion as well, I always grew up and did my parents' religion because that's what they told me to do.
Sure.
And then, you get baptized in your church and you all stuff. And then you grow up and you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if I always believe the same things that they do. And I had to even now, like this crisis in faith and trying to figure out like what I believe and why I believe it, and now I've got these two boys that I want them exposed to some of the things that I believe, but I also want it to be theirs too, fly fishing,
Right.
which I always relate to religion because it is a religion, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I want you to. There are good decisions to make in life, but you have to make those decisions. I can't make those for you. But yet you're a child
Right.
still. So
Right.
how it's a tough thing. It's very tough. And yes, I want you to go outdoors, and I hate I hate video games, but he loves them, so I've got to get in his world every once in a while and play with him. But yet he also needs to be outside and
Right.
doing something. So I totally get it. I mean, you're kind of in the same. I'm a couple years ahead. My oldest is 9, but also just on this starting and going into manhood, it's like, okay, how do I handle this? It's pretty overwhelming.
Sure.
To handle that.
Yeah, it's the most important thing I've ever done in my life, and I know my father-in-law and I talk about that quite a bit. In terms of being a dad and a father, and we try very hard to do a great job of parenting, and we're as close to perfect as I think we can be,
Yeah.
but our perfects are all different, and there's certainly things that we can do better, but fishing in the outdoors for me was always with my grandpa. My dad and I weren't really close, and we did some small game hunting, my dad and I, and those sorts of things. But it always came back to my grandpa. He was more of a father figure in that sense, and so to me and to you and so many other people, to get out on the water, yes, it's a religious experience in so many ways, and yes, it's about the fish in so many ways, but it's about the relationships too, and so. It's really a loaded thing for me. And I think probably a lot of people are like, let's take them fishing, and I don't mind doing that. But to me, there's a lot more pressure to it. And there's a lot more about the relationships and about the fun that's had while you're doing it, and just, all the reasons we got into it, so I just want to make sure that I don't ever turn them off because it's second nature to me, to fish or to do whatever. And so that's the one time where I stopped teaching. I don't want to be the teacher. You can ask my wife just how frustrated I can get, with snags or whatever it may be, because I've taken her a few times, or quite a few times actually over the years. And I'm not the most patient person. So it's just a lot of pressure. And I try to do my best and make sure that I'm just being a good dad.
Being on this side of fatherhood, do you have more, I should say, being on this side of fatherhood, do you see your dad in a different way and your mom and how they raised you? Do you kind of see I don't know. I see my parents, they were younger than me at one time when I was a kid, younger than I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was an idiot when I was at that age, and all of a sudden I have this grace for them that I didn't have before I had children or before I got older.
Yeah. Again, with my dad, we weren't close. My dad passed away about 3 years ago, and it was one of those things. It was just one of those, lots of turmoil and family, whatever. And so when he passed, it was a bit of a relief. But I look back on certain things and obviously, in many ways he did the best he could, and I don't ever want to badmouth him publicly or anything like that. I mean, I'll keep some of that stuff a little closer to my heart. But pretty early on, I think probably about my sophomore year of college, I look back and I was like, I understand why you guys were so strict. My parents were always very strict. My stepdad, Brian, and then my mom, Cindy, were always very strict with curfews and what we were doing in high school. And, in high school, it doesn't make sense. But once I got away to college and I got out there and started to see some of the things they were trying to keep me from that, maybe I indulged in it a little more than I should have or whatever. It made sense. And I think I appreciated him more at that point. And, I think our relationship improved a whole lot, not that we ever had a bad relationship, but I think it improved. And, so I look at, I reflect on that stuff all the time, even being an older, so when we had Edie, I was 39, and there was this really wonderful, I call it beauty, but there was this beauty to being almost a 40-year-old man having a child who was a baby. Like I knew what to do with everything, and
Right.
she had some health concerns and things, and you just take so much more in stride with that age, and not 70 years old or anything, but being 40, it just it all just seemed to make sense a little bit more and a little bit better. And I don't know if I answered your question there or not, but yeah, it's I respect a great deal what my parents have done and what my grandfather has done, my grandma, and I was lucky enough to have my great grandma until I was 28. So all
Wow.
those people were really big, and yeah, my mom was 18 when she had me, so I was fortunate to have those people. But they all played a role in parenting me. That was really important to me, and it's shaped the man I am for sure.
That's really cool, Michael. That's really cool that you were able to experience that. And I think about that a lot because, like, if I'm 38, all right, and I've thought
Mhm.
before, like, okay, I've had two kids, one who's 9, the other's 5. I remember when I brought my youngest home for the first time, and we strapped him in, and I'm going down the highway like 40 miles an hour, thinking, like, people, I've got a baby in here, like, don't you
Yeah.
know that, you're freaking out, and now it's like, okay, there's a kid in here, let's go, and I think having a baby at age 40, your perspective is a lot different than it was, when I was in my late 20s. I mean, that, and it,
Sure.
I think, like you said, I think it could be a benefit having a child at that age, in the fact that you have a little bit more maturity and a few more
Yeah,
things.
and money too. I think
Yeah.
I have a lot more money, and I'm a teacher, so I don't have a lot of money, but I have a lot more money at the age of 40 than I did when I was 28. That's for sure. So yeah, so you get the maturity and a little bit more money, and things just get easier. But yeah, I would agree with that for sure. It's funny that you say going down the road, like you like, what are you guys doing? You're going too fast. There's a baby in the car. But I remember taking my niece to the mall when this is before I even had children. So my sister's daughter, and having a plan of like how I'm going to hurt people if they try to take her. Like this complete fatherly instincts kicking in. So it's great. It's great that we're on the same page with that, because we've been through the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. One of the things you sent over a bio to me, and there was one sentence in particular that I wanted to point out and just talk a little bit, and it kind of goes on everything that we've discussed so far, Mike. But it was the quote is, "There is a beauty to the effort and knowledge that goes into the sport, and I think you can only understand once you have reached a certain age or caught a certain number of fish." Or maybe even realizing that fishing has always been about something other than what it should be about. Fly fishing has done that for me. What does that mean, Mike?
I've been fortunate enough to fish with a lot of people. I guess in the last 8 years, especially, I think of some guys over on the west side of the state who are much younger than me. Just actually, one's just starting college. One is just finishing college and starting his career for this first time. And the impact that they have had on me just in terms of perception. For me, there was always a competition to fishing, and there still is, and I get harassed a little bit about that. But, when I was growing up, I tried to outfish my grandpa, because that was, this is a guy that could catch fish out of a mud puddle, in my opinion, right? So I got to the point where I could maybe get close to him, and that was success. And then I got to the point where I was catching as many fish, and then I started, we'd go on trips, and I'd beat him like every second or third trip or something like that, and I'm like, I got you, I outfished you this time. And so there was this really competitive nature. And then an old friend of mine, we had a falling out and are no longer friends, but it was really about competition. You know, we'd go out and catch. I remember one day we caught 16 steelhead out of one hole, and it was competition. You know, it was like I'm 4 for 5 right now, and you're whatever. But these last few years, especially, my best friend Jeff, who I fish with all the time, my friend Hunter, who I haven't fished with in a while, but I have fished with quite a bit. My buddy Paul. All these people are going out in the boat, and it's not about any of that stuff anymore. And it hasn't been about those things always, you know, because I've always taken in my surroundings. I've always taken in the relationships and those sorts of things. But it's less and less now about trying to outfish the other guy, or you know, we have to catch this many fish to have a successful day. As you know, throwing streamers, sometimes one fish is going to be your day. And that might not even be the highlight of your day, but if you do get that one fish, you know, it's usually, you know, kind of the icing on the cake. But, you know, watching these people around me put a different perspective on things, it's really ingrained in me now. You know, it was never about catch and release back in the day either. You know, I can't remember, I can't even imagine how many freezer burnt steelhead have been thrown away over the years, because we had to kill everything for a long time. And, it disgusts me. It hurts my feelings now, you know, but I'm fishing with the right people. How about that? Does that make sense? I'm fishing with the right people, and we're doing it for all the right reasons now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and it has a different meaning now at your age than it did when you first started out. And I think that's life, you know. That's just we change a lot, you know, through our life and life experience, and slow down a little bit. And yeah, I've got some friends that I fish with on a regular basis that are, you know, they're people that, like you said, you fishing with the right group of people, that it feels good to be around them. It's not just something that I don't have to work hard or be someone else. I can just be myself, you know?
Right. Well, and I think in a lot of ways, social media has taken that away from us too. I know, you know, I go through these purges where I'll go through and just get rid of all these different pages that I'm following, where it looks like everybody's catching a 28-inch brown, you know, every trip they go out. And, you know, it puts this pressure on you to do those sorts of things. And, or, you know, it's not realistic.
Right.
Kelly Gallup, in one of his streamer chronicles that he did, you know, he talks about, you know, there's nobody doing that kind of stuff. Nobody's going out and catching those kind of fish every single time. But social media would have us believe that. And so it kind of poisons what we're trying to accomplish, you know, on a weekend trip, you know, and yeah, it's cool if you get a 28-incher, you know, I never have, but, you know, that 14 or that 16, they always save the day. You know, I mean, if I can go out and catch a 14 or 16 every single time I go out, I'm pretty happy with that, you know, and, but yeah, it's all about the people, and like you said, to the age, you know, the maturity, and there is also that aspect of, you know, going through those different stages, you know, like at first, you know, like deer hunting or whatever, you want to kill, you know, you want to go out and kill your deer, right? And then you want to start, you know, I don't know if it's killing multiple deer or killing the biggest deer. And then you sort of get to the point where, like, I don't know if I really want to hurt that animal, you know? So,
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's just part of growing up. I think a lot of it goes back to being a dad. You know, I think that, you know, it's just a different world once you become a dad. And I think everything just slows down and importance kind of comes about, if that makes sense.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool to look back on that and just see that. Do you think social media, I mean, I probably talk about this too much on the podcast, but do you think social media is, like it's a catch-22? And the reason I'm asking is because I had a meeting with some marketing people, and they're like, you need to put more pictures up of you fishing on Instagram, Jeff, and people want to know more about you and your story. But I really hate, like, putting pictures of myself on Instagram, and, like, I'm not a selfie person. So, like, this week I went out a couple of times, and so I went fishing, and I had no one with me. I was just by myself. And then, you know, I caught a couple fish, you know, a couple of nice, you know, nice rainbow. I caught a nice brown, and, you know,
Okay.
coho that really pissed me off and threw my fly. But anyways, so but I'm like, I don't want to stop and take a picture. Like, I don't even want my phone near me when I'm on the water, but yeah, I mean, I know you touched on it earlier about how it seems like everyone's catching a 28-inch brown every time they go out, but
Right.
but then again, I think too, like my wife, because obviously I have an Instagram, she follows me, so then it's all these other suggested groups for her. So she's like getting exposed to the sport because of social media, and she's like, oh, I think I could try that. So there's some, I guess, positive points that I just hope that she doesn't think every time she goes out with me, she's going to catch a 28-inch brown.
Yeah, she probably will, though, is the problem. So,
I know.
keep that in mind, too. Yeah. I don't know. It's a necessary evil for what you and I do.
Right.
I wouldn't be where I'm at without social media. But like I said, I do feel like it poisons our perceptions of what's going to happen when we go out. Our expectations. It influences us in a lot of negative ways. And I think there's a lot of great stuff out there too. But the stuff that probably speaks volumes to me is, in Michigan, we have there's a big blog where everybody basically just talks about whatever hole they fish, and they basically give all the details of how to find it, coordinates and everything else. And, in that aspect, it's really frustrating because it's taken some of the hard work out, and there's a lot of joy to me in finding new things on my own. We all started, I would assume, fishing small streams. I at least that's where I started. And, you end up 3 miles from the truck because you want to know what's around the next bend. Right. And we didn't have some blog telling us where to go. Right. So,
right.
So there's some positives to it, obviously, and there's certainly some negatives, but no, I like I said, we certainly do a purge. My buddy Jeff and I a lot. We talk about it quite frequently. Like, okay, well, I went through this week and I got rid of all these types of pages, because I can't take it anymore, or whatever. But I've had confrontations. Everybody's a keyboard warrior, so at some point I've been that guy too, and it's just one more stress that is not necessary. So on the business end, it's a positive. On the other aspect of it, I don't know. But I do, the picture thing is really interesting. We certainly go days where we don't take pictures of fish. And then there's other days where we'll take a picture of everything that we catch. I guess it depends on the day, but I understand not wanting your phone there. It is a distraction. That's for sure. So,
yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I think we're all trying to figure out how to communicate now. Like before, like when MySpace and all this stuff, like, what is this social media thing? And then Facebook came out, and you didn't realize everyone can see what you comment on and this and that. And then the next thing you know, it's just like we're all just kind of learning, like, when to shut up and like what's important and what's not. And it's like, I know I found my spot where I'm comfortable. I don't really comment on any political or religious or any, because just that's a very personal thing to me. Like, my grandma told me, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics or abortion. Those three things you just don't talk about,
Right.
And for some reason now we feel like we could just say whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want. It's like, well, it's none of your business. Like that's my personal thing. But now it's like, it's just a different landscape we're in. Like I said, it's like everyone's like figuring out what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and it's a weird time for us, I think, because like you had mentioned payphones earlier. Like, how many people even know what a payphone is?
Right.
Like my kid, I took my kid to a hotel. This is like last summer. Summer of 2017. We were down in Oklahoma because my wife follows this pioneer woman. I don't know if you know who she is, but anyways. So we go down. I know, it's weird. All right, so we who goes to vacation to Oklahoma? I loved it. It was an amazing place. So we stayed in like this hotel there, and my kid picked up the phone. He'd never seen one before, he's like, what's this sound? It's the dial tone. Like, you don't have a dial tone on a cell phone. And to him, this is like a toy. I'm like, don't mess with it. You're going to call the front desk and call 911 or something. But he'd never seen it, So like the way we communicated growing up is a lot different than the way our kids communicate.
Yeah. Well, and, again, there's so many positives that come from it. I look at, I talked to a couple of women when I was at ICAST this year about, the Orvis 50/50 or 50/50 on the water, and trying to get more women involved. And, so looking at the positives, that's one of the positives. I think the whole idea of catch and release is really taken off, in the last few years, at least from my perspective, so there's all these things that are catching on with social media that are positives, and so just keeping that in kind of everything in perspective, I guess, is really important. So, it's really a great avenue, like I said, for people like you and I, but also for conservation, and so that to me is cool. I've been really following, what's happening in Florida a lot. I got a chance to fish in Florida. So, I've been, in that aspect, it's really great because I get to see what's up with, all the red tide or all the algae that's happening on the Treasure Coast and all these different things. And, so in that aspect, I see a lot of conservation. I see a lot of these positive efforts that are actually taking off. And, for an angler, or for anybody who's into the outdoors, I think we just gotta be careful with what our expectations are. Keep everything in perspective, and we'll be better off, I guess.
Yeah, and like I said, I think we're maturing a little bit as a society. It's not as crazy, and I think we'll find our balance there. Like you said, There's a lot of great things going on. I mean, like. One of the people, well, there's a few people that I follow, obviously people who've been on the podcast. I always follow them. And there's some awesome women out there that are doing some great things. And, just content that adds quality to my life. Like, like you said, conservation or, like there are a lot of people, if you look at this hippie age, everybody wants to be a lumberjack, these days. Mm-hmm. And so why is that? They're seeing this stuff on Instagram and they're going to the national parks and all that. Right. So that's great. That's a great thing. But talking about like my hot dog I ate at lunch is just like, that's not going to happen on my social media. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but we're learning.
Yeah, so it's like your podcast. You've interviewed so many people. I know we talked on Tuesday. I don't know what I'm bringing to the table that looking at all these names that you've interviewed and all these wonderful people that I look up to that you've talked to and spoken with, and but there's these little treasures in every interview, and again, I don't know what I'm bringing to that table, but without that social media and without that audience, to listen or to hear what your people have to say, the people that you're interviewing, all these people have just such great gifts and so much to share. So, if we didn't have that and we didn't have you, that those voices wouldn't be heard, so if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. Someone told me that, probably about 7 or 8 interviews in, and I didn't understand the responsibility, I didn't, you're exactly right. Like this, what I'm excited about is like, we're seeing this new age of fly fishing, we're seeing the Oliver Whites and the Yako Lucas, these guys that wear flat-billed hats and, I can never grow a beard like Oliver White. And he's very epic. And they called me Patch Adams in college for a reason. So, but we're seeing this like new age of fly fishing coming on, and then we've got these people who've been around for a very long time that have this rich history as well. And if we can, that's important, like I was up with the guys at True North Trout, and they're saying a lot of these old timers are passing away, and so are their patterns, or what they make the flies out of. Well, that's important. Those things to me, those are they're just as important as this new wave of fly fishing. They're both awesome. And so we go forth here at our podcast to kind of document what's going on, that maybe 30 years from now, someone will look back on a podcast and be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that he said that," or what was going on at the time. Do you know what I mean? And like, you don't think
Right.
about it at the time. You know, it's like I think back when I was a kid having dinner at the kitchen table, you know, with my family at night. You know, we're eating dinner, we're talking, and you don't think there's anything important going on. But then when you grow
Right.
up, you're like, holy crap, those are like the best times. We're just sitting around eating some like grilled cheese, you know, or some hamburger helper with cornbread. And you don't think
Sure.
of it in the time, but when the time passes, you're like, holy crap, that was an amazing time in my life. And I wish I could just sit around the table and have some cornbread and some really bad processed food like we ate in the 80s. And like,
Yeah, I get it. I get that for sure.
So-
For sure. So yeah, there's there's a lot of value in what you just said there too. There's when we lose some of these people, oh my gosh, I just losing Lefty and man, I think of the local legends that we have around here. Kelly Gallup's no longer around here, but and he's still a young man out in Montana, but he's one of our local legends, and Bob Linsman, and they take things with them. But I think what I've seen change, especially like in the last year or two, is for a while there was a lot of arrogance and cockiness out of some of the younger people that I was seeing, and including in myself too. But I think that's starting to kind of go away, and I see this really wonderful group of anglers just embracing all the good stuff about fishing. And again, we've got to we got to thank the older people that have been around, because I think they left they left it in our hands, and I actually see it just being treated very well. We're taking care of it and coddling it very well.
I agree with you. And it's funny because a lot of the people that have been on this podcast that are very well known are the most humble, genuine people you will ever meet,
Right.
Like Paul Puckett, like you had mentioned earlier. I mean, and Bob White. I mean, if we're talking about artists, right? I mean, let's talk Bob White. Let's talk Paul Puckett. I mean, those guys are just, you just want to sit down and have a beer with them because they're the nicest guys. They're the most humble guys you'd ever meet,
Right.
And you're exactly right. We're seeing that. And I know my father-in-law, who introduced me to river fishing with spinning gear, and he ties up some spawn sacks, and that kind of thing. He showed me how to fish, like how to read water, and he's awesome. He's an awesome guy, but he's always done spinning gear, and I'm like, John, why don't you try fly fishing? He's like, well, those cocky guys, those guys are super cocky.
Yeah.
He's like, I've experienced quite the opposite of that, but he comes from a generation where that's the case. It's like,
Sure.
But now it's like people are excited to show you about fly fishing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's certainly still in the sport. Yeah. I mean, I ran into it. I've ran into it with the young crowd. I've ran into some of the older guys that, are more like the purists. But like I said, I'm running into less and less of that as we go. You mentioned some really great names like Oliver. I've met Oliver this year for the first time, and my gosh, I mean, you can sit down with him right away. Same thing with Paul Puckett, and it just ICAST was kind of an eye opener to me. I think for a lot of reasons, because at the end of the day, everybody's just they're just trying to enjoy the sport. They're trying to get their little their name in for whatever it is, for however long the community is willing to take them. That's the one thing I always say about my stuff. I'm kind of the flavor of the month, for now, and there's just so much competition out there, and there's so many people that need to be seen and heard and all those things. It's just, to me, at least from my perspective and what I've witnessed in the last little bit, is it's starting to change, and it's really exciting to see.
It really is. What's next for you? I know we mentioned the Sims things, but I mean, what's next
Sure.
for you? You think you're gonna keep on teaching through retirement there, what
Yeah.
what do you got going on?
That's a really good question. Right now, I've got everybody still wanting hats. So these hats, that's the fault of Justin Pickett. I'm going to throw his name out there because of Gink and Gasoline, because he's really the reason all this took off. I don't know. I think I've done like 150 hats or something, which I wasn't the first one to do hats or anything. I know Andrea Larco and so many other people were drawn on hats way before me, but it just kind of took off and was my niche. But yeah, so I want to do some canvas work. I really feel to be taken, seriously. I need to get on canvas and do some things that way. There's a couple people I really look up to, Ty Halleck out in Wyoming, and then Ed Anderson out in Idaho. Those guys, I every time I do a piece, I don't know if I should say this publicly or not. I compete with them in my mind. Like, did I beat him this time? Or did I get close? And so I always compare my work with those two guys, because we're very similar in what we are doing in some ways, but completely different too. So, I look at what they do. I want to get on some canvas. That's something that's huge. I don't see teaching going away anytime soon. It's, I do like working with the kids. There are certainly struggles with society as things continue. And as I get older, I get a little bit more of like that curmudgeon aspect of things, like, the whole get off my lawn, grumpy old man kind of thing. But, I do like the kids, and, I don't know. I just don't see that going anywhere anytime soon anyhow. And I want this art thing to be fun, because I think once it becomes a real job, and I've witnessed it a little bit, I've witnessed it with big orders, or, having a stack of 60 hats sitting on my table that needed to be addressed in some manner. You start to feel that dread of work and not the excitement of creating. So I don't know that the art will ever be a full-time thing, at least for now. So it'll be teaching for a while. It's right now it's, I guess when I got into it, I guess I can put it like this. When I got into it, I didn't want to do it for money or anything like that. I just wanted to do it so I could go fishing in different cool places, wherever, and it's starting to do that for me. So until that gets boring, I guess we'll do the teaching and the art at the same time. How about that?
That's amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. If people want to find you, I know you mentioned your Instagram earlier. We'll share that link. But do you have a website, or is there anywhere else where people could find you, Mike?
Yes, I do have a website. My website is greenbusdesigns.com. And, it's nothing that's really all that interactive or anything. It's just one big page of every image that I've done. And I try to keep it updated. But really my Instagram is the most important. That's the thing that gets the most traction for me and has brought me the most amount of work. And that's Mike Williams Art at Instagram. I also have a Facebook page that's Green Bus Designs Art by Mike Williams. And again, that I think I have right around 1,000 followers on my Facebook, but I'm somewhere close to 6,000 on Instagram. So it's just one of those things that I keep there. But I update it often, but it's not getting the traction that Instagram does. So I usually try to do my work through there. But once you get to my Instagram or whatever, or any of those things, there's always an opportunity to call me. My phone number's on there, or email, anything like that. And I will say I do struggle with the messages as of late, because I'm sure it's kind of like with you. You could sit down every night and message people for 2 or 3 hours a night. So
yeah.
So it gets a little bit overwhelming. But yeah, feel free to visit, and hopefully people, like what I have to offer, and we'll see where it goes from here.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Jeff.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Remote No Pressure Podcast. Be sure to check out our website at remotenопроpressure.com and check out our blog and what we have there. And we'd love to have you join our mailing list and follow us on social. And until next time, go fishing.